It's been a while since we updated you on the GOAT ToadZ project. Now you can go back and take a look start to finish at what we've done so far. We started off doing sketching, some 3D renderings. We ended up printing a 3D model of what we thought was our final design here. And it's been a little while since we brought you an update, and that's because we've been waiting on our first prototype mold. This is a single cavity prototype mold right here. It's machined from a block of aluminum, and typically when we're coming out with a new product, we have a single cavity mold like this machined so we can test the design. Our big production molds, they weigh over 100 pounds. They have anywhere from 30 to 100 cavities in them, and we obviously don't want to make one of those until we're 100% sure that the design is right. And usually we get a prototype mold made, we test it out, and we find things that we like about the bait, things that we don't like about the bait. And this case was no exception. So what we do when we get the prototype mold, you can see here it's two parts, machined from aluminum. It closes, clamps together, and we actually hold this up to one of our extruders and it injects the molten ElaZtech material in there. And what comes out is a bait that looks just like this. This is one of the first mold shots. Our initial impression of this was that it looked great. We were super excited to try it out. We got our first shots done at the end of last week, heading into the weekend. A few of us were heading out on the water over the weekend, and everybody was super excited to try it. What happened when we did try it was a little bit of a letdown. And that's really not all that uncommon. It's pretty rare that we nail these things on the first time. But what we found, the buoyancy of this bait was great. It cast pretty well, but the action left a lot to be desired. The legs didn't really start going until you really sped it up. On a slow retrieve, there was really just no action. It looks great, but it just didn't do exactly what we wanted it to do in the water. So what's the next step when we have a design that we like, but it doesn't do what we want it to do? Well, the next step for us is we always take scissors to it. And that's what we did here. We started off just making a variety of cuts. We tried, thinning out the legs a little bit, cutting them at some different angles. We, tried cutting them back, pretty aggressively in some cases, making some cuts along the outside of the legs, thinking that maybe all this material here was preventing the bait from really flapping in the water. And tried some different kinds of, little cuts and notches. We tried a bunch of things. And actually pretty quickly came up with something that we think worked pretty well. And that's this guy right here. You can see, I'll hold it up next to the standard one, and there's really not a whole lot of difference. What we did is we just, took a little material out of the inside of the legs that exposes these paddle feet a little bit more, and it really gave it great flapping action on the top. It really spit and chugged a good bit. We tested it against some other popular frogs that are out there on the market, and it performed better at slower speeds with these modifications. Well, where do we go from here? The next step is to get these design changes made. There's a few other things that we'd like to tweak as well. One thing that we noticed is, the body came out a little bit thinner and flatter than we wanted. We'd like to bulk it up a little bit, give it a little bit more weight for casting. The paddle feet are a little bit thin, maybe thicken them up a little bit, give them a little more bulk, help with the action a little bit. But really, I think that this one little tweak right here, you can see how we just took a little bit of material out of the legs, just expose those paddle feet, thin out those tails a little bit. That really went a long way to helping. So we're going to make those changes. We'll get a new prototype mold cut, and we'll see how that version does. So stay tuned as we keep on taking you through this process as we develop the GOAT ToadZ.